Welcome back, everyone, to Common Sense Choices, and I'm Linda Toupin. Well, today is episode number 21. Can you believe it? This has been so exciting. If you've been with me since December the 2nd, 2021, welcome back. It's because of you that our podcast is having such great success. It's your likes and your comments and shares that spreads the good news. And it's always my prayer before we start an episode that something that is said today will encourage you, lift you, edify you, and affirm you, and even challenge you in these very interesting times that we're living. But the goal is that we each become a better person. And when we become a better person, we make better churches, better communities, better schools, and a better society. And so that's always our mission. Common Sense Choices is based on the mantra that you see behind my shoulder on that 7-foot piece of art. It is, I am where I am by the choices I've made or I've allowed others to make for me. So if we want a different life for ourselves, our children, or our grandchildren, in the case of today, then it begins and ends with us and the choices that we're making. God has gifted you free will. And as part of that, you've been given 168 hours and you get to spend it like money. Whatever you spend it on is what you get. And so today I take that very serious. You clicked play. That was free will. That was a choice. And did you know that you'll make 35,000 choices today? Now, most of them are pretty insignificant, but you and I both know that when we make a small choice over and over again, it becomes a lifestyle change. And so I thank you for clicking play, and thank you for choosing Common Sense Choices. Well, every single episode is audience driven. And so today your comments are very important. So today we're going to be talking about grandparents and their role in the spiritual development of their grandchildren. So maybe today, why don't you comment either if you're a grandparent or maybe a memory with one of your grandparents, something special that your grandparents taught you. That would be kind of a fun thing in our comment section today. But when you comment, share, or like, you're automatically entered into the drawing for a special gift over at LindaToupin.com. And over there, we have a souvenir store, and you'll receive a gift from our souvenir store. And so every week there is a winner. So I am excited to announce our winner from episode number 18. Now, if you remember, we've been this is our 4th week talking about children, schools, choice, and grandchildren. So in episode number 18, Leah Carta and Katie Ray Van Togren talked about homeschooling. And I'm sure all of y'all were blown away. Like, homeschooling is not at all what homeschooling was when I was growing up. And anyway, and so during that episode, we had many of you leaving wonderful comments. And so our winner today is, drum roll, please. Her name is Alexis Daniel, and Alexis lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. So congratulations, Alexis. You'll get something wonderful from our store over at LindaToupin.com. Now, what's over at our store today are items with our mantra on it. Our most popular one is our 8x8 canvas print. You probably don't want a 7-foot piece of art. Most people do not want a 7-foot piece of art. So we have it on an 8x8 print. You can put it on these little, these little stands you can get at Hobby Lobby or Target, wherever. And we also have it on our coffee mug. And if you are one of my guests on my show, you'll get your very own coffee mug. And today I'm excited to announce a brand new item at the store, and we'll hold it up on the screen here for you. It is a 2¼ by 2¼ inch magnet for your refrigerator. And guys, many of you have been saying, can I get a discount? Can I get a discount? I want to offer it as an award or a prize or an incentive. Absolutely. The answer to that question is yes. So anytime that you order at least 5 of one of those items, just use the promo code LT, as in Linda Toupin, LT20, and we'll give you a 20% discount. And that's cool. Now, for those of you who want to buddy up and you have several friends who want to order several things, I can give you free shipping when you order 15 of these. And here's why. Because if I order 15, the manufacturer ships it to me for free. I'll just ship it to you, and we'll cut out the middleman. And I don't know if y'all know, but shipping's kind of a big deal these days. If you haven't been to UPS recently, you might want to get in your savings account. So anyway, so we certainly are excited about our items over there. So be sure to use the promo code anytime that you order 5 or more. Well, for those of you who've just joined us, welcome. Please let me know this is your very first episode. And I always like to interact with you. Now, we are on Apple and Spotify. So if you're listening on a platform where you're driving at the same time, don't be commenting. Okay. Eyes straight ahead, hands at 9 and 3, and just enjoy the conversation. And I can already tell you what your homework is today on this episode is I want you to share this episode with as many people in your church and in your community as possible, because the wonderful organization we're going to learn about today can actually come into your church. So we'll learn all about it. But if this is your very first episode, I do want to acquaint you with all of our episodes. Number 1 through 4 was on the mental health. And obviously that was a big deal coming out of COVID. Episodes 5 through 7 was on physical health. Episodes 8 through 16 was on what does it truly take to work from home? And so many people are working from home today, either because they can with their day job or they're running their own businesses. Episode 17 is required listening for every woman in America. If you have a woman in your life you love and you care about, that is my integrative functional doctor, Dr. Lena Edwards. It's required listening, just so you know. And then this month, episodes 18, 19, 20, and today we'll finish the series. Episode 21 is on schools, children, and today, grandparents. Well, let's not waste any more time today. I can hardly wait to bring back someone very special to me. You met her in one of my very first episodes. And today we're going to get to know her better in her role in this organization. She is the ambassador for the state of Florida for the Legacy Coalition that you're going to learn about today. So would you please welcome to the screen my good friend, Bett Vernon Pate.
Hey, Linda. Oh, my dear friend. Thank you so much for letting me share today. You know, what a public service you're doing with all these podcasts. Really. I mean, I've listened to almost every single one. So informative and so inspiring. And I'm just really grateful that you're allowing me to share what I'm passionate about right now. So, and before you lose any of your listeners because they're not grandparents, like you said, they did have grandparents and, they could be grandparents in the future, but also there are probably kids in the neighborhood and at the churches that they can be a surrogate grandmother too. And remember that your parents are the grandparents to your children, so you can share this information with them. And I want to tell you about Jane Larson for just a second. She's been active. She's on the staff with Legacy, and she started years before she had grandchildren, and she just had beautiful Malia a year ago. And I have to tell you, she's one of the most amazing intentional grandparents because she's been praying for that child before she was conceived. And so she also does for us an online version of a first-time grandma shower, which is really fun and really interesting. So that's available as well on our website.
Wow. Okay. Well, and you're exactly right. You don't have to be a grandparent to listen to this episode, for sure. Well, let's just start by talking about our faith and kind of our background. I was raised, as you know, Southern Baptist in Southeastern Kentucky. And so faith was never a question. We were at church every Sunday. We went to Sunday school. We did Bible school. We did the Christmas plays. It was just a part of my life. I dedicated my life to Christ when I was in high school. I was baptized in our family pond, along with 2 of my brothers. And so, faith was just never even questioned. It was just a part of who we were. But I think as all of us, we can kind of go in and out of our dedication to the establishment, so to speak. But it's certainly always been a part of my life. And you have certainly done a lot for me, Bett, just bringing to my attention that, because I think as I studied more about your organization, I thought, being a grandparent is just not spoiling your grandkids and then taking a back seat, that there's a much more active role I can take. So tell us a little bit about your faith.
Well, like you, Linda, I grew up in the church, and our little country church, which you visited in South Dakota, was built right across from my dad's property up there. And my grandfather was one of 15, so almost everyone at the church was related. And if the church doors were open, we were there. I don't ever remember not being a believer, but like you, as I as I grew older, it was more about a personal relationship, because I don't ever remember my parents or my grandparents actually talking to me about their faith. They took me to church. You know, I lost two grandparents. I passed away before I was born, but I always knew or thought that my dad's dad and my mom's mom were Christians. Papa took us to Sunday school, and my parents would meet us there for church afterwards. But he read the Christmas story from the Bible before we opened presents at Christmas time, and we prayed before bed. But nobody really talked about it at home. Right. And so my faith grew, by myself as I got older, and was a part of more Bible studies, and so my faith has matured a lot. But I always was in the church, and that's the way I was raised, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm just, grandparents can play a much bigger role. And, something that has been surprising, that we now have a pastor's division at Legacy, and many of these pastors are just blown away by the fact that they preached for 30, 40 years. And they preached a lot about parenting, but they never thought to address the role of a grandparent. And now that they know what they know, they are just passionate about it. But, it just wasn't something that they talked about.
Well, and I don't know, maybe it was just our generation, or maybe it was just the norm. I mean, it's still, my parents are still alive, and I knew all of my grandparents, and it was an assumed thing. It was not a discussed thing. I mean, maybe something would come up and it would be mentioned, but that's very interesting. I had never really thought about that. So your children, then they were in church then, tell us about your children. Let's start there. Okay. And your grandchildren.
I have two girls, and now have two more girls with Tommy's girls. They're beautiful. My girls were, they're married to incredible men, and the four of them are amazing parents. And so I'm so blessed in that way. Brittany and Ryan live near Ottawa, Ontario in Canada. And they have William, who will turn 10 in just a couple of days, and Charlotte, who just turned 8, and Benjamin, who just turned 6. Oh, wow. And then Laura and David live in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And they have Kaylee, who will be 8 in a few weeks. And both girls were raised in the church, and they were both very active. And one still is. And her daughter is in just an incredible classical Christian school. And she'll FaceTime me and recite the Bible passage that she's learned that week, every week. And she knows that we pray specifically for her on Wednesdays. And so she'll tell us what she wants prayer. And just a few weeks ago, it was obedience. And then last week, it was to pray for her teacher's safe travel, and that her classmates would not give the substitute any trouble. Not your normal 7-year-old. But the others only know as much about Jesus as I've been able to share with them.
Right.
And and Legacy has really helped me to do that without alienating the parents. Right. Which can happen. And it's just, we've had some really, really precious moments. And a lot of things have happened with them that I don't think would have ever happened if I didn't have the knowledge that I have through Legacy.
So let's talk about how you found this organization from your perspective, and then we'll learn more about the organization. Okay.
I actually walked into church one Sunday, and our pastor of senior adults, who I'd known for 25 years, he doesn't have kids, so obviously doesn't have grandchildren, but he said, I know you have grandchildren and I know you love them. Will you read this book? And he gave me Courageous Grandparenting by Kevin Harper. And I went home and devoured that book over the weekend, and it changed my life. But one of the things that stuck with me, just one, was the fact that the most vocal 10% of our population can change our culture. And haven't we watched that happen in the last years? And there are 30 million grandparents in this country who identify as Christian. That's almost 10% of our population. So what a difference we could make for our, not only for our grandchildren, but for our culture. And so we are passionate about getting the word out and just letting everybody know, because once you know, you can't unknow. It's just everybody who knows has been so grateful for the information. So that's our goal.
So you read the book, and then what happened after you read the book?
A few months later, we had a Grandparenting Matters seminar at our church, and I met our founder, Larry Fowler. And before we go any further, Linda, can we just run that little video from Larry about, and so that they can get a feel for what this is all about, and a little bit about Larry.
Okay, let's roll that tape.
That'd be great.
This is my declaration. I am a grandparent, but I am more than that. I'm a Christian grandparent. I believe in the Bible and in the God of the Bible. I've received the grace of the gospel of the Christ of the Bible, and I desire to be a lifelong devoted disciple. I want my grandchildren to do the same. You see, I'm a Christian grandparent, but I am more than that. I'm an intentional Christian grandparent. I love my grandkids. So I will hold them when they're born. I will cuddle them when they're 1. I will chase them when they're 2. I'll read to them when they're 3, and I'll play with them when they're 4 and laugh at their jokes when they're 5. I will support them. I'll exhort them. I will cheer them. I will revere them. I will praise them, even help raise them. I will be there for them because I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Because I'm an intentional Christian grandparent, though, I will do more. I will pass on my faith. No, I'll do more than that. I will perpetuate my faith. I commit to teaching 2 generations. I will think 4 generations. I will ponder, what kind of grandparent must I be so that my grandchild becomes one like me, and then his carries on the legacy. You see, I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Culture says go play. I say no thanks, I'll pray. Culture says pursue affluence. I say I'll pursue influence. Culture says you're old, you did your time. I say not so, I'm in my prime. Culture says to those younger generations, you can't relate. I say it isn't true. My influence is great. You see, my grandchildren need me. But from me, they need my godly wisdom. They need my Christ-like example. They need my faith stories. They need my earnest prayers. They need my uninterrupted time. They need my unconditional love and my God-authorized blessing. So what is intentional Christian grandparenting? Let me spell it out for you. It means I will guide grandkids with grace. I will respect parent roles. I will abound in my affection. I will nurture their nature. I will deal with the dilemma of distance. I will pray with passion and purpose. I will adjust my attitude in case I need to restore relationships. I will excel in my example. I will number my days. I will tell them my testimony. I will intentionally influence. I will never neglect the newest generation. And most importantly, I will give them the gospel because I am an intentional Christian grandparent. Are you?
Okay. That was powerful. Intentional.
I cry literally every time.
Grandparenting. I mean, that word intentional was like, woo.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is learning to be an intentional, because, you know, people say I'm a good grandparent. Well, what are you doing to be intentional about your grandchildren's spiritual growth? It is way, like you said, way more than babysitting them or bringing them to church. I mean, we can't depend on Sunday school teachers and youth leaders for them to be responsible for their spiritual growth, because they only get them, what, on an average, if you're lucky, an hour and a half a month, and it just is not going to happen. So it's what happens at home.
It's the same thing with schools. You know, we can't, parents can't let just teachers and think teachers are going to educate your children.
Exactly.
That it's a shared responsibility. And so certainly something as important as one's spirit and soul, I think, and their spiritual upbringing would definitely fall on the shoulders of a parent more than anyone else. So, so Larry was the voice that we were hearing in the tape.
Right.
Okay.
So I had dinner with him after the seminar, and then we started a grandparenting ministry at our church. And I was so impacted by all of the information that a few months later, February of 2019, I flew by myself from Florida to Fullerton, California for the third seminar. This legacy's only been around for five years or so. And I don't know, I was just blown away by that event. It rocked my world. It truly did. And so I had become an ambassador after I guess it was at the summit that after that, I became an ambassador for Legacy. And my job there is to find churches who might be interested in having a grandparenting ministry, and then to encourage them, resource them, and support them in that effort. And so that's what I've been doing. There's so many grandparents that you get to retirement age, and you and I have talked about, you've always said that your best 20 years are ahead of you when you retire. And that's absolutely true. But culture says, you're done, go play, and we live in Florida and everybody moves here, and it's kind of like they move away from grandchildren, or they move to a 55 plus community, and it's time to play. But who has more time? Who has hopefully more wisdom, more money? And so we can play such an important, we have cards that say we're number 2, and next to their parents who are number 1, being responsible for their spiritual growth. So we are number 2 on that list, and there's so much that we can do. And there are even little children's books that are like, grandmas are for tickles and grandpas are for digging worms. And, really, there's just so much more to it. So
now the ministry inside the church is, if someone's watching this today, because I'm going to ask everybody to share this with their churches, right, and with the decision-making powers within your church. If a church said, hey, I think having a grandparent ministry inside our church would be obviously filling a huge void, what would that look like stepwise for them to become involved with Legacy Coalition?
Well, they can become involved immediately, and the resources are amazing, and I'll talk about that on the website. But what it would look like in the church depends on the church. Sometimes it's a Sunday school class that are grandparents that get together to pray for their grandchildren. It does start with prayer, really. And sometimes it's a grandparenting huddle that maybe meets once a month. And we resource them so that they can play one of our Grand Monday night calls at that meeting and then discuss it. And so there's it just depends on sort of the culture of the church, whether it's a small group or a Sunday school class or just a community. Come by my house for coffee on the first Wednesday of every month, and we'll talk, we'll pray for our grandchildren, and we'll discuss different ways that we can have a bigger impact.
Now, I know, because I'm on your all's mailing list, that there is a webinar. Is that what it is, every week?
It is a Monday night call, grew out of COVID because we couldn't meet in person anymore. So Barb Lorenz from California decided that we could do a Monday night call. And I've just been amazed by the speakers, that most of them are authors. Many of them are artists. Some of them are just grandparents who are in the trenches with us, but child psychologists, all kinds of different topics that are discussed on Monday nights. And so, from registering, that you register one time, and then every Sunday night you get an email that reminds you of the topic and gives you the link to call in. And then if you can't make it on Monday night, if that time, depending on your time zone, is not convenient, it is recorded and it's available at the replay for a week until the next call happens. But now there are, I think there's 61 calls that have been archived on the website. And so those are available to go back and listen to. And I promise, if you listen to 2 or 3 of them, you'd be hooked. In a year and a half, I don't know if it's probably been a year and a half. that I don't think I've missed more than one or two. And everyone is just, and Tommy's listening to them with me. Now, Tommy didn't have grandchildren and he's not going to, so he's adopted my 4. Of course, they adore him, but he came to the summit at my church last year and he really thought he was just going to drop by. I was the MC for it and he was going to drop by and then he was going to go play golf. And he stayed for the entire 2 days and was just so impressed by the caliber of the speakers and how professionally it was done, and it's riveting. You can't leave. There's just so much good information.
Well, and I would say that, the email I get is very professional. The website obviously is just a source, a wealth of source of information, and so many links of various things that they can see, but just very professionally done. And you can tell this is not a group of amateurs. These are very wise people who've lived a little bit of life that have put this together for sure.
But they're volunteers. Did you know that? I mean,
no, I did not know that.
Paid people. We are on a shoestring, and no offices or anything anywhere. It's just everybody working from their homes and volunteering their time to make this happen.
So, how large is the organization across the country? How many churches do you all have involved? Do you know?
I do not know. I do know that they have thousands of people that are registered for the Monday night calls, and that covers 6 or 7 or 8 countries. We have people in around the world, Indonesia, I mean, just all over, that have been so, in fact, this next summit, they're going to try and translate it into a number of different languages because so many people have picked up on it and want more.
Okay. So obviously, if someone's listening that is like, okay, I would like to know more about this. First of all, just at the basic level, let's not talk about the summit yet, but just it's like, wow, this is interesting. I didn't know anything like this existed, even for myself. Or if I want to send it on, or maybe I'm that person in the church that would be able to help make this decision. Where would they go? What would be the website they would go to?
Okay. Initially, they would go to our main website, which would be legacycoalition.com. Okay. And you can find out all about us, our mission, what our passion is, and everything about us. You find out about our events and how to get involved with those. There is a store there that has the largest collection of Christian grandparenting resources. I want to share a couple of them with you. These are promise cards. Grandchildren, and mine are thousands of miles away, right? So I love to send them snail mail. Kids like to get mail. And so every month there's a holiday or something, or their birthday or Christmas. And every time I send one of these promise cards, and you can fill in their name. So I pick out one that pertains to them. And then what I do is take a they're all biblically based. There's a scripture. And so I go to a children's Bible and I write the scripture on the back of it. And then I encourage them to save these. And just for your information, they fit perfectly into a Kendra Scott box. So they each have a Kendra Scott box. And so I like to send the promise cards. This is a prayer placemat. I have it at my where I sit at the table, and it's a generic calendar. So the first Sunday of every month, this is my prayer for my grandchildren. The first Monday, the first Tuesday, it has a specific prayer. For instance, today is Monday, that they will grow spiritually, and they're all biblically based, that they will be rooted and built up in their faith, growing in truth. And that's from Colossians 2:7. So every day when I sit down to breakfast, I have a specific prayer for my grandchildren.
Awesome. I did not know that was there.
Oh, it's wonderful. And what I did? I gave it for Christmas to my children's in-law, to the other grandparents of my grandchildren, because it says where 2 or more of you pray. So I want my other grandparents to be praying the same prayer for my grandchildren on the same day. These are conversation cards, and these have been really interesting.
I have those. They're right.
You have those?
My thing. Yes.
Love these. And they get better and better as the kids can read. Now they're color coded for age group. So preschool, elementary, high school. And so they're age appropriate. And on one side is a question that you can ask your grandchild. And on the other side is a question that they can ask you. And as soon as they started to be able to read, Kaylee was reading it to me one day, and she went through every single card in one sitting.
Oh my.
But her mother was standing nearby. And as Kaylee asked me questions, let's see. Tell me about someone who has made a lasting impression on you. How can I pray for you? Let's see. I was trying to, when did Jesus become real to you? When did God become real to you? Or something like those kinds of questions. And my daughter was like, turned around and said, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
You never told me that about you. And, that brings up a point, because some of us deal with some guilt, when we're raising children. Things are so crazy, working and small children, that you maybe don't have time to think. That's why grandparents are so good at this. But we feel guilty about doing this with their children because we didn't do it with them. Yeah. So we might just have to ask forgiveness and just say, you know what, I did the best I could, but I kind of blew it in this area, and I want to do better with your kids. Just clear the air with that, so that you don't feel like a hypocrite.
That's very interesting. And from the calls that I've been part of, a lot of it is grandparents getting rid of guilt of things they did wrong with their own children that they see now that they did wrong. But like you said, sometimes you're in the middle of just trying to pay the bills and get to work and, make a career and keep everybody fed,
Yeah. We know not what we know not, So,
but I mean, I do think that's a huge benefit for people who want to be part of this, or want to at least listen to some of the calls, is a lot of it is dealing with your own mentality of like freeing yourself of stuff that maybe you just need to get rid of yourself.
And I think it strengthens your own faith, I've found that to be true. There's a plethora of books on that website as well. Just so many books that, overcoming grandparenting objections, biblical grandparenting, the blessing, learning how to do a blessing over your grandchild. It was awkward in the beginning, especially for my grandchildren who didn't really know a lot about God. And now they ask for it. Are you going to do a blessing over me? And is it time to say prayers? And it's really been amazing how, and I send books that are on the resources to my grandchildren, one was the Action Bible, and it's sort of in comic book style, and I wasn't sure if he'd be allowed to read it or if he would read it. And so when I saw him in February, I said, did you ever read that? Yes. I said, how much of it? He said, all of it. Stop this there. And I said, well, what did you learn? And he started telling me all the stories. I said, what was your favorite story? And he knew every story in there, and I was just
blown away.
Yeah. And then there's there are children's Bibles on there, and there's just all kinds of, so the resources are just, when Larry started this, they researched it and they could only find 4 books. When we had children, didn't we read every parenting book on the, but I couldn't, 10 years ago when I became a grandmother, there weren't any books on grandparenting. And I wouldn't have known.
Wasn't even thought about. I didn't even think about reading a book on it.
So there were 4 books. 3 of them were self-published, if that tells you something. And now there's just tons of books because so many people are realizing,
Right.
So really helpful books. Really, really, Larry actually wrote the one on, where did I put it? I don't remember. Anyway, he's got books on there about the grandparenting barriers, things that keep you from overcoming grandparenting barriers. Here it is. And then long distance, all of these have been just so helpful. So
and wonderful. These are all on the legacycoalition.com website.
If you go to the resources, you'll find them there. And there's 100 blogs, 199 blogs on there that you can listen to. There's 21 podcasts on there. Topics like healing family relationships, characteristics of a disciple-making grandparent, leaving a legacy of joy, just all kinds of great topics. And then the Grand Monday nights that you talked about, just calling into those every single Monday and sharing that with your friends, just getting as many people as possible. That's where you really do get the vision and the passion for this, is just listening to these other, to the speakers and the grandparents. So I would really highly recommend that. And then the Grandparenting Matters seminar that I went to, there's 3 ways that you can do that in your church. You just contact us and say, I'd be interested in bringing that to my church. And it is to help you learn what the Bible says about your influence as a grandparent, and discovering ways to strengthen your relationships with your adult children and positively impacting the spiritual development of your grandchildren. That's on legacycoalition.com/seminars. And it can be done in 3 ways. We'll send somebody out to do a live seminar for you. And that's what we had before pre-COVID. Now they are starting to do them again, but you can get a DVD or a download and do it that way online. And it can be done over a course of 6 or 7 weeks, in a Sunday school class or a small group or something. And then there's something that I've participated in, a live virtual event that would be a Saturday morning that you bring people to your church and watch it online live. And so that's something that you can do in your church. And then you get to the summit, and this is just the thing that I'm so excited about. And what I'm really excited about is that when we were a simulcast site last year, we got to share our simulcast with other churches. And I found out about this church, Crosswater Community, up in Ponte Vedra Beach, in just near Jacksonville in Florida. And in July, we're moving up within an hour from there. So I am the on the ground point person this year for the live event. And they were so good. They took this and ran with it. I mean, they found us on the internet and just were looking for ways to work with grandparents at their church. And so I contacted them and I went up and met them, had breakfast with them, and they were so amazing. And they got so many people to come that this year they were chosen as the live site. Wow. And so we get to have all of this here in Florida with us. But we already have over 100 churches signed up to be simulcast sites this year. And
okay, so now we're talking about one event, the summit, right?
The summit, right. And it's a 2-day event in October 21st and 22nd. And the speakers are amazing. Among them are John Stonestreet, Crawford Loretz, Miles McPherson, Ken Canfield, people that are well known, and some of them have been at the summits before. John Stonestreet is amazing, and Crawford Loretz, he's the favorite speaker every time he speaks, the feedback that we get. But a household name, a person that we're really excited about, she's committed. She just said, don't put my picture up until June, and it should be up by now. Health permitting, because she's had some health issues recently. She said, she wants to do this. She's signed up to do it, is Anne Graham Lotz. And we're just very excited about her coming and being here. So the speakers are amazing. And, I spent nearly $1,000 going to California. Now I know not everybody can do that. And we had maybe 1,200 people there. We know we need to reach more people. And so that's why they came up with the simulcast idea along with COVID. And so now you can come to the event at a church, and you can look on the site and see if there's a church near you. And if there's not, then you need to call us right away so that you can sign up to be a host site. But now it is only early bird until the end of July is only $49 for a 2-day event, which is pretty spectacular. And then it goes up to $59. But we have had a very generous donor donate some money. So the first 3,500 who sign up, and registration opened on the 1st, which was yesterday, right? And and so the first 35 that sign up get $14 off. So it's only $35 for the 2-day event. So I would encourage you to go immediately and sign up. This year's theme is going to be being a 21st century grandparent, because isn't grandparenting different? We touched on that now than it was when we were growing up. Our grandchildren are faced with so much more, and we just have got to figure out how to help them navigate through this world that they live in. And so that's going to be the emphasis at this event. And, we want grandparents everywhere to be able to attend. So if you check the map, and like I said, if there's none near you, the grandparents in your area need this. And so if you will contact us, contact me, contact Legacy, and we will call you immediately and talk to you about the possibility of your church being a host site. And they will equip you. They will do everything. It is the easiest thing. Our church really didn't have to do anything other than just be there.
So in order to get information about the summit, the website is?
I sent it to you. It's the Legacy Coalition.com summit host. Yeah, it's got host in the name of the website. Right. And I know you're going to put that up for.
Yes, I'll get that exactly. So it's up on the screen, and then there will be a link.
Oh, I have it right here. legacycoalition.com/summit/host-sites/ So, but you'll have it printed on there. So we'd love for you to become a host site, and your church will receive the streaming video of the summit and share it with everybody at your church. But go to your church leaders, see if they'd be interested to doing it. The ones who did it last year are all signing up to do it again this year. Honestly, Linda, the very first event that I went to, And sometimes you have to talk people into coming because they're like, well, I'm a good grandparent, I babysit and, all that. And, but or you'll hear people say, I'm so busy. I just don't, all that. And the truth is, if we saw our grandchild being beat up in the parking lot, we would drop everything and go out there and save their life. And right now, friends, we are fighting for their very souls. And there's nothing more important to me than making sure that they're in heaven with us for eternity. And so this is so important. And we just need for more people to be.
Well, and going back to the theme of this year's summit, again, for my audience, it's October 21st and 22nd. It can be streamed directly into your church.
And if they have a conflict with those dates, they've made it available to be flexible with those dates. They'll work with them on that.
Okay. Now I've got two things because I'll lose my two thoughts here.
Sorry.
One is, if your church is not going to host it, can they just view it for $49? Can they somehow get the stream?
They could sign up for my church.
Oh, okay.
In Florida, if they just go to the map and they could sign up for any church. And then after the event, and see, at the event, there's 2 sessions in the morning, 2 sessions in the afternoon, both days, but then there's breakout sessions. And there's only one that's going to be videoed live that they will see, but there's actually 10 breakout sessions being held. Those are all going to be recorded. So when the event is over, they get all of this, all 10 breakout classes and 2 days of the event. They will get it online and can re-listen and listen to it and share it with their friends and use it for their grandparenting ministry, play it and discuss it. And, they can play one speaker or whatever, and it'll be available for 1 month up until Thanksgiving weekend after the event.
Okay. So that was my first question, because, it may not be available in their church, or they may not can make that happen. And then I just want to go back, because I think this is one of the more powerful things that shook me when you said it. So maybe my audience felt the same thing, is the theme of the summit being a 21st century grandparent. I mean, I can't imagine anything more different than what my grandparents was able to impart to me versus what is necessary today for a grandparent. Because, I have 2 grandchildren as well. And the things that they will be facing in their schools and in their life, et cetera, just simply because of technology. I mean, grandparents have to be equipped to deal with the technology aspect of what their children are constantly bombarded with. When you said, if you saw your kid being beat up in a parking lot, you'd go rescue them. Well, they're being beat up. And they're being attacked in so many different ways. But I think sometimes grandparents as a whole, they don't even understand how they're being attacked. And so this is so good for this organization to bring it to their attention. I remember, Bett, there was a time my grandmother, she was in her late 80s at the time, and or maybe mid 80s even. And that was right when you could leave a message on an answering machine. Okay. So that's how long ago it was, probably the 70s. And she was like, I'm not turning that thing on. If they want to call me.
My mother wouldn't do that.
It's like, no, you just keep calling until you get me. And I'm like, but Mama, a whole lot more people, want to talk to you, but you just have to, you have to let them leave a message. But she refused. And I think, how many messages did she miss because she refused to embrace the technology?
Right.
And we kind of scoff at that and laugh at that today. But guys, there's a lot of grandparents that don't understand what your grandchildren who are 3 and 4 know how to do with technology. And that's going to put a barrier between you and the conversation.
I was just, William is about to turn 10, and I decided that when they turn 10, double digits, I'm going to write them a letter. And so I just finished this long letter to telling him about the day he was born and the first time I saw him. And I bought him an iPad when he was a few days old, because he's in Canada and I'm here, and I needed to see his face. And so that was, and I said, and we Skyped. That was what we did before we had FaceTime and Alexa and all those things, So in 10 years, things have changed drastically. Because I don't think we even had FaceTime 10 years ago.
Oh, no. And it's interesting that you say that, because when Ren is 8, when she spends the night with me, the first thing she wants to do when we cuddle in bed is tell me a story. Tell me a story about when you were little. tell me something that happened. And I mean, I watch her face,
Yeah.
because just normal stuff that happened to us was like, oh my gosh, it's so hard for her to even imagine. But they do. They just want to know stories, and they want to know. And I love those little cards, because as soon as you started this, I said, I want those little cards. And every time they come over, they're picking those cards up, and like, even my grown kids are like, these are really cool. I didn't know the answer to that.
Exactly. And we as grandparents are different today than you and I are coming home from the gym and stopping at Starbucks on the way home. It's not like my grandmother.
No, not at all. Well, Bett, I've known you since you started this back 3 or 4 years ago, and I've heard you talk about this several times, but I have to tell you, after listening to you today, I'm like, oh my God, I have got to get this information to everybody I know, because it's so important. And I'm so glad that you were one of the original ambassadors, I think, probably, of the whole thing.
Well, there were probably some before me, but I'm just glad that I got in when I did. I got in the 3rd year that they were in existence, and Larry, was a pastor in Midwest, and had a very successful large church, but he left that church to move to California to be near his grandchildren. And his vision, he's just an amazing, we're so grateful for him and for all of the others who have volunteered their time to be a part of this, our pastor's division and all. And so just know that if you get involved, there's so much support. And like, if you want to do an event, or if you want to start a ministry, we will give you everything that you need to be successful with that. Mm-hmm. But your grandchildren are going to be the ones who benefit, because they need us to be all that we can be for them.
Well, you certainly have inspired me, and there is no doubt that you have inspired everyone who's listened. So your homework for my audience is to share this episode immediately with everyone, not just grandparents, but everyone. And then your second homework assignment is to go to legacycoalition.com immediately, check it all out, and then consider registering for the summit. The link will be there. And then for those of you who are involved in a church, please share this information with your pastor, with the people on staff who make these type of ministry decisions, and let them listen to this podcast or send them to the website. But Bett did such a beautiful job and was so passionate about this that I would think that this podcast would sell this to a minister or anyone. So please, that is your homework.
Thank you. We didn't play. Did we play the other video of?
Oh, you know what? We didn't play the summit one, did we? Oh, well, let's do that, because we definitely want them to see. This will explain the summit. Again, the dates are October 21st and 22nd, and so let's roll the tape on the summit.
Thank you.
My grandchild. You and I live in different worlds. How can I help you get through the unique obstacles you will come to face in a hostile culture, in a lost and broken world? How can I shine a light across the years to show you that God is faithful through it all? I have heard the testimonies of those gone before, of those who have kept the faith, passed on so that the generations to come might know the radiant, life-changing love of Christ. From the most incredible triumphs to the most painful failures, I can see God telling his greater story through it all. Perhaps my life has been no different. Can I tell you my story? Join thousands of other grandparents across 100+ locations. Learn how to have a greater spiritual impact on your family. Hear from an incredible lineup of speakers. Find spiritual inspiration through worship and teaching, and connect with a like-minded community. Improve your story and build your spiritual legacy that will last for ages to come. October 20th and 21st, 2022. Register at legacycoalition.com/summit.
Okay, you guys. Well, I'm ready to sign up. And I think I probably need to round up a church here locally to make sure that happens.
We need something where you live, Linda. We do. I mean, I think it's just a shame that some people don't have the opportunity to attend. And you can listen to it online afterwards, but attending in person,
it's always better.
You know that from all the Zooms we've been doing
I've done in my life.
There's nothing like being there in person and being there with other grandparents. So.
Well, and other people who have the same vision that you have and have the same needs that you have. So absolutely. Well, I have no doubt it will be an enormous success this year. And Bett, you have certainly been a bright, shiny light to my audience today and to parents and grandparents all across the nation. And you're the perfect ending to my series on children because, this has been a month-long series. So you have been the perfect ending for me.
Thank you. Well, this really isn't about grandparents as much as it is a children's ministry. It's all about the kids.
It is all about the kids and that they are our future. Well, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you so much for coming on here today and sharing your passion with us. And for everybody listening, if you have, cheers, cheers, Miss Bett. Cheers, cheers.
Thank you for the mug.
You're welcome. Well, we are where we are by the choices we've made or allowed others to make for us. And so we can make a positive difference in children's lives and grandchildren's lives by making different choices. That's for sure.
And we're biblically mandated to do so. It says, teach your children and their children. It's not a relay. We don't teach our children and hand it off. It's God commanded us to do that.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Well, thank you all so very much for watching this particular series. And later in the month of June, we're going to go on the road. I'm going to find my fellow road warriors and we're going to learn how to pack effectively and travel. And I think a few of my friends know a lot about traveling. And so you'll enjoy our series for June because many of you are packing up and moving out over the summer, hopefully with your grandchildren. All right, you guys, thank you for being part of Common Sense Choices today. And we'll look forward to having you here in the future. Thank you, my friend, Miss Bett Pate. I can't get used to saying that.
I know. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.